Content warning for the movie we will be discussing this episode. The movie we are reviewing contains depictions of racism and racial slurs, police brutality, suicide, violent assault against women, and sexual assault against women. If you are sensitive to this kind of content, you may want to skip watching this movie and or listening to this episode. Hi, welcome to Your Movie, My Movie with Dan and Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve. This is a podcast where one of us picks a movie to watch and discuss it. In this episode, we're talking about one of my picks, the 1995 movie Strange Days, starring Ralph Fiennes, Angela Bassett, Juliette Lewis, Tom Sizemore, Vincent D'Onofrio, and William Fichtner. It was written by James Cameron and Jay Cox, and was directed by Catherine Bigelow. We will be talking about spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie first, now's the time to do so. But before we talk about the movie, Dan, who would you recommend this movie for?
All the sheeple who need to wake up. If you can handle the truth. No, this movie's amazing. Holy cow. I would recommend this movie for anyone who likes movies and is able to handle a lot of rough stuff. It's a rough movie. It was intense, super intense, but it's actually like an amazing movie. Like, I was super impressed by it. It's not what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I would recommend it for, people who like movies. And also, if you want to watch what people were thinking about in the 90s, I mean, it's not like, we'll get into it more, but like, there's a lot of political statements in this movie that I think are super important and relevant. But I mean, it wasn't made by Black people, but it's definitely like about that, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like it was like right on the edge of being like A++, you know, of like actually like aware and I guess like culturally like important, you know what I'm saying? It was directed by a woman, so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But like there was like another that's like anyways, that's just like if it was able to go one step further, that would have been even more awesome. But that so anyone who likes movies and wants to see what was kind of in the cultural unconscious of the 90s and still around. But sorry, that was a long one, but
no, that's fine. Yeah, I agree with all that, but I also want to recommend this to the sci-fi crowd, especially those who are into like cyberpunk, because this movie is kind of pre-cyberpunk. You know, one of the elements of sci-fi is where you take some kind of futuristic concept, put it into society, and then see how society reacts and evolves around it. And that definitely happens in this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you could easily do a triple feature with this movie. So where you watch, Strange Days, Johnny Mnemonic,
which we will watch.
We will. But then Blade Runner. And I think those three would make a really good like triple feature.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say though, I don't think this is pre cyberpunk. I think this is just cyberpunk, or something. I mean, we got there's other works of art that are cyberpunk that are before this. So I don't know.
Well, also this is also a neo noir thriller.
Yeah, hardcore.
This is right up there with
Blade Runner.
Well, I mean, the ones from the 40s and 50s.
Oh, okay, like Double Indemnity. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, those kind of movies. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is, and it plays by the same rules for sure.
A Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of elements of Hitchcock in this too.
That's fair too. Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good recommendation.
So, do you like this movie?
I loved this movie. There's some problems I had with it, I guess, or things that I think I would like to talk about. Things that didn't like exactly sit well, but overall, this movie is insane. This movie is like like I wrote down that I wanted to see it on the big screen because there's so much going on constantly, and it's like this movie is like at an 11 for the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it reminds me, because I just recently watched like a few months ago Total Recall, and that movie is like at a 87 out of 10 the entire time. It's like just pedal to the metal the entire time, and that's what this movie is too. And also just like it's weird seeing movies this huge scale.
Mm-hmm.
And especially this movie, because I've never even heard about it until like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've never heard about this movie, and it's like got a huge, I don't know how big of a budget it had.
Oh no, it was 8 million, I think.
Really? So that's not even that much for back then.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, no.
8 million was the box office.
Oh, that's why I haven't heard about this movie.
The budget was 42 million.
I was gonna say, yeah, this looked expensive to make.
Yeah.
8 million box office. Dang.
Yeah.
That's rough. No one ever heard of it.
Filmed in 1995, Los Angeles.
This movie was too ahead of its time, honestly.
Yeah, over 77 days. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's a long shoot. I guess not that long. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure like, all the cost of it was, because it was shot on location in LA. I'm sure that's what all the cost was, because like there was no like big budget things. There were some like big locations, like the New Year's Eve party at the end.
Yeah, the New Year's Eve party was huge. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there were set pieces there, explosions and
well,
yeah, the whole movie is a set piece.
The whole movie is a set piece, because before we get into anything else, let's quickly set up the movie, because it's New Year's Eve, 1999 in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And LA is a fucking war zone.
Yes.
Because like not only are there police, there's also SWAT, and not only is there SWAT, but there's also fucking tanks in the street.
Yeah, what is that called? Like the National Guard or whatever?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or just police with their fucking tanks.
Or just yes. And that's constant in this movie. Is like there's always like everything is on fire in this movie. There's like burning cars in the streets constantly. Mm-hmm. People always running by the camera, fighting. Just cops just beating people up left and right, and it's just madness. This movie's insane, and like it's also long. It's a long movie.
Yeah. This movie is 2 hours and 35 minutes, which is kind of amazing, but it's also kind of necessary, I think, because we don't get to the plot of the movie until after an hour.
Yeah.
This movie spends an hour just setting up the entire world and all the characters and like the rules of the universe as well.
I don't think I would have noticed how long of a movie it was before if I hadn't looked it up beforehand.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel that long. Like it felt it was well paced completely.
Absolutely.
It was, I mean, there's so much jam packed into this movie. Like I said, it's at 11 the entire movie.
Yeah.
There's no like slowing down.
Yeah.
So it's long, but it's not like I'm saying it's boring at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like Star Wars A New Hope in a way, because like the hero of that movie is Luke Skywalker, and we don't meet him until about an hour into the movie, because George Lucas has to set up everything with the world first, has to do all of that world building, and then the plot carries on. And that's what this movie does. It really gets you into the world of LA in the then future of 1999. And I think it does a really great job.
Yes, I think it does a fantastic job. Who's our main character's name again?
Lenny Nero.
Lenny Nero, yes.
Played by Ralph Fiennes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we start out with Lenny Nero.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the plot too much. Let's just talk about like the main themes or main things that we want to talk about.
Okay, I was just gonna like run through the plot really quick.
Okay.
So Lenny is a salesman of like these basically VR videotapes. He's a black market salesman, ex-cop, and he's got this ex-girlfriend, Faith, that he's obsessed with, and she wants to make it in the music industry. She's dating a huge player in the record business. And one of Lenny's associates who would make tapes for him showed up.
That's Tex.
Oh, I'm talking about Iris.
Oh, Iris would make tapes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Iris, she would make tapes for him. she shows up and wants this help, basically.
Mhm.
I think it actually starts with her, doesn't it? The movie? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. The opening image is of Lenny's eye.
Oh.
And then we see the first person point of view of like a group of men robbing a Chinese restaurant.
Yes.
And so in his first person point of view, a lot like one of my favorite movies, Hardcore Henry. And so they go through all this and then they're at the place, but then the police come by. And so the criminals have to, run up to the roof to try to escape. And one guy jumps across, from one roof to the other. But the guy, that we see, he doesn't want to, but the police are right behind him. So he jumps across to the other roof. He doesn't land, but he holds on. And then the other criminal tries to pull him up, but the police shoot him and drops the guy. And then the guy falls in. And then that's when we meet Lenny Nero. And he's like, God damn it, man, I don't deal with snuff tapes.
And the guy trying to sell it to him. Oh, that's his.
Yeah,
so,
Tick. Tick is that guy's name. Yeah.
Tick. I love Tick because his name is Richard Edson, and he's been in like everything. But he's like one of my like. So I'm obsessed basically with the point in time of film of New York in like the 80s, because that's when Jim Jarmusch got his start. That's when freaking Spike Lee got his start, and a bunch of my favorite directors got their start. And that's when like, punk music is exploding, and it's just like one of my favorite moments in time in the US in the past. It's just a thing I'm obsessed with. Like a lot of my favorite art came out of that period in time. And basically he's an actor in one of my favorite movies of all time, Stranger Than Paradise, Jim Jarmusch's second feature-length film. Yeah, he's also in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the guy who drives the car. He's in Do the Right Thing. He's in like everything. I just love him because he's like a bit character who's amazing at what he does, but he's like completely non-memorable. Or like no one knows his name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyways, I just love
such a great support actor.
Yes, so good. And in Stranger Than Paradise, he's like there's only like 3 or 4 actors in that movie. He's one of the 3. And he's so good in that movie. He's so funny. Oh my gosh. I'm going to make you watch that. That's one of the movies we're going to watch.
Okay, yeah, anytime.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about the themes of this movie, right?
Yeah, so it's not VR, because it's not virtual reality.
Yes.
What it is, it's a rig, and when a person wears it, they can, the tape records their point of view.
Yeah.
What they see. And then it records through a tape, and then you can...
But also what they feel, hear, and sense, I'm assuming, because it's recording their brain.
Yeah. I don't know if that's for sure. Maybe. If that's also the case, then this movie is even more fucked up.
That's what I got from it. I mean, it's definitely their optical...
Yeah. We definitely see and hear what they see and hear. But if it feels... that it makes what happens even more fucked up.
Yeah.
So... Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And how does it work? It's quantum. Quantum science is magic. It doesn't matter. It's just quantum.
It's great. Fun is what it is.
Yes, it's very fun. And so that's the piece of technology that has been introduced into this universe, and it's been made illegal. And so Lenny Nero, he's this cop who was on the Vice Squad, who then got kicked out of it because of the commissioner that's we see later in the film. And so I think that's really great setup for him, because basically this movie is it's a mystery. It's a noir mystery. And so, he's not a cop. He's a former cop. Now he's a criminal. So he's like on both sides of the law. But that's also an interesting theme where cops on the right or wrong side of the law. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting themes in this movie. This movie's jam-packed full with like everything.
Well, I mean, like the first thing that I noticed about, because, we already talked about LA being a war zone, and I just kind of want to provide some, historical context, because like I was around for that. And the reason why is because what was going on, like the main thing that was going on, was the Rodney King verdict happened, where the beating of Rodney King got caught on tape by LA police officers. And then those police officers were tried and found not guilty. And then the city of Los Angeles rioted because of that verdict. And that happened, the LA riots happened in 1992. So just 3 years before this movie was put out.
This is insane. This is insane. This movie is insane. Like, this movie was like on the pulse, because literally there's a political figure in this movie named
Jericho 1.
Yeah, Jericho 1, who's like, a political rapper who is very critical of the police and of what's going on in the society. And basically, this is a war zone. Things need to change. There should be a revolution, basically.
Yeah.
And guess what? He gets assassinated, basically. Well, actually not assassinated. He gets
executed.
Murdered.
Yeah.
Executed. But it's
at a traffic stop.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like...
And it was caught on tape by the prostitute Iris. And so, hold on. Let's just talk about all this for a minute.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not into hip hop. I'm not into rap. But I'm pretty sure, like, what Jericho 1 is like a stand-in for was, NWA with, I believe, Ice Cube and Ice-T. Those other political rappers at the time who were talking about
F the police.
Yeah.
Or fuck the
police. Singing about, or rapping about, police brutality and what they were seeing on the streets of LA at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when they get pulled over at, in a traffic stop, police recognize them and they say, "Oh, you're the one who's organizing all of those gangbangers and political activists against us." Man, I know that this was, set in 1999. It refers to 1992, but it's relevant today because of the, Black Lives Matter movement. I mean,
people, just police brutality still. It's just insane.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting because the Black Lives Matter movement, it's been one of the reasons why it's been happening is because we have smartphones and cameras on our smartphones, and we record evidence of police brutality. So at that time, it was thought, that was an LA problem.
Yeah.
But with Black Lives Matter, it's shown that it's an all across the country problem.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this movie kind of, shows how video that's ubiquitous, where everybody can see, and then how
powerful that is.
Yeah, how it can capture police corruption.
Yeah, how it is powerful in the hands of the people.
And how it's like used as a defense against when police abuse their power.
Yeah, it's accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
It's being able to tell the truth. I mean, and there's always editing and bullshit like that, but like it's being able to tell the truth in a way. And that's kind of what this movie is about too, in that, because Iris captures the murder of Jericho 1 through her visual optical nerves or whatever.
Yeah. The device is called the squid.
The squid.
Yeah.
So the squid is capturing what she sees and hears, and she sees everything. She sees them get pulled over. She sees them get pulled out of the car. Jericho 1's like, "You're going to be on my next song." And, the cop loses his temper, just boom, executes them both. And then the other girl with them, and Iris is running away,
and they chase after her,
shooting at her. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's like one of the main parts of this movie, and it's crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and I don't feel like super like qualified to talk about all this, but I'm gonna try, I guess. And I might not say everything right, but we're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so where do we even start? This movie's crazy.
Well, so that's like one of the main themes of this movie is, well, like I said, police brutality and all that other stuff, because so that's one of the main things. And then and also another main theme is the blurring of lines between cops and which side of the law they are or aren't on. Because, okay, before we go on, so what happens in the plot is Iris has this tape, and she's been trying to get it to Lenny, but he's busy with other things.
Busy making money.
Yeah, he's busy hustling. He's a hustler. Like, yeah. He's great. Always worried about, I love his suits. Like,
Lenny is amazing. Lenny's a great character. I mean, he's an asshole, but he's a great character.
Yeah, the costume designer, whoever's in charge of the wardrobe, she deserves an award.
Oh my gosh. Everyone looks amazing in this movie constantly.
Right? But it's like 90s chic.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Angela Bassett?
I know. Oh my god, the cocktail dress.
Dressed to the nines. Oh my gosh, the cocktail dress?
Well, I mean,
I lost it.
The funny thing is like she has an entire arc surrounded by her wardrobe because we see her in the, how she is today, where she's like a limo driver and bodyguard, and she's so badass, and she's dressed in this
she's so freaking badass.
This business suit,
with like this awesome cuff that like goes up, like these cuffs, collars, super like buttoned up, put together, classy, but also like almost like it is. I mean, there's even the joke driving Mr. What's
Fumitsu.
No, she says what's his name, what's his freaking name, Ralph, I mean not
Lenny.
Yeah, driving Mr. Lenny or whatever, because she's driving around, the white guy in the passenger seat. But it's like, it is a chauffeur position. And that's like, I don't know. It's just cool how like we get to, she is in that, that's her job.
Mm-hmm.
And it is classically a job that was a sort of like, only certain people had that job and they weren't the highest class people in the States. But
there's a reason, like I said, LA is a fucking war zone.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she's getting paid, a good amount of money because not only is she like a driver, she's also a fucking bodyguard.
Yeah, she like knows all the martial arts and is freaking like
she fights the same 3 thugs, 3 times, and she gets over on them each time.
She barely takes a punch. I don't think she actually takes a single punch from them.
Yeah. So that's how she is today. And then we see her in a flashback when she meets Lenny for the first time, back when Lenny was a cop. And she's dressed in this waitress outfit. We know that she's probably, low paid at that point. She just got a job, whatever she could, just to make ends meet. And then her husband gets arrested at their home in front of their child. And that's when she meets Lenny. So obviously, her being a driver and a bodyguard, it's a step up from being a waitress.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too, because like in the modern day, she has those braids and she just looks so strong and powerful and badass. But when she's in a waitress outfit, she's just crying and bawling because, she relied on her husband who's no good. So, there was an arc and it was all done visually. And that part is great.
Yeah. And she has her hair like straightened.
Yeah. It's straightened and it looks like a bob, like something out of the 1950s.
Yeah. It's very much like this is what presentable Black waitresses wear in order to be accepted and have a job. It's so
and then by the end of the movie she wears a cocktail dress with a
like a leg holster,
a thigh holster
with her freaking Glock or whatever.
Yeah, barely hiding it,
and her freaking muscles, bro.
Yeah,
she's yoked.
Yeah,
she's like. Whoa.
Yeah, so that's great.
She's like a superhero in this movie. It's amazing.
And so like the costume design.
Yes. What's her name again in this movie though?
Mason. Mm-hmm. She's Mason.
Mace for short. Which she carries around and sprays.
Well, and she also has a shotgun. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, so badass.
Yeah, she stays strapped. Well, you got to, in 1999 LA, apparently. Okay, so
wait. Can we imagine like a bodyguard movie with her as the star?
Well, I was just thinking, maybe this is where Luc Besson got the idea to do The Transporter.
Bro, haven't seen that, but sounds awesome.
It's awesome in its own way. It's not as awesome. I mean, it would have been more awesome if Angela Bassett played the Transporter.
Yeah.
But it's awesome in its own way, for sure.
Her character is amazing. Probably the best part of the movie. Actually, no, is the best part of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's go back to, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I want to cover real quick where we see that flashback. Because Lenny Nero, has just sort of gotten kicked out. He was trying to track down the woman he was in love with, which was Faith.
Yeah, Faith is his ex-girlfriend.
What's her name? Oh, Juliette Lewis. And so he was kind of trying to track her down and you know, get in contact with her again. And now he's kind of gotten the crap beat out of him.
Well, she's been with Philo Gant, who is a media mogul.
The most sci-fi name.
Yes, that is the most sci-fi name in this movie. And he's played by, I want to make sure this is right, Michael Wincott. And he was in The Crow. He was the villain in The Crow.
He was just recently in Nope as the cinematographer.
Oh, okay. Well, in the 90s, he was in The Crow, which was Jason Lee's final film. And he was also the main villain in Along Came a Spider. So Michael Wincott, he's kind of like this character actor who specializes in villain roles, but like he's really good. I'm
looking at his, you know, what he's been in. He was in Dead Man, which is another Jim Jarmusch movie. I just think that's a cool crossover. I love the crossovers of like the actors and directors.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. Anyways.
So Final Gant. And so, yeah, Lenny's trying to get Faith from Gant, but Faith doesn't want to go. And Gant is also the manager for Jericho 1. And so Iris knows Lenny because everybody dealing in Squid in LA knows Lenny. And that becomes a plot point in the movie. And so Iris tries to show Lenny something, but then his car gets towed. And Iris runs away when she sees cops. And then eventually what happens is Lenny is given a tape of a guy breaking into a hotel room where Iris is at. He handcuffs her down.
It's very graphic.
Yeah, it's very graphic. It's very difficult to watch and it's very difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're seeing it from the assaulter's point of view.
Yeah.
Which is very, very disturbing because it's almost like we're
the assaulter.
Yeah.
It's super disturbing.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. And so, you know, he's recording this, but then something that fucked up that really goes on is he puts the squid on her so that she sees him assaulting her as he assaults her.
The most like fucked up thing.
Yeah. And then as he assaults her, he also strangles her with her own shirt that, you know, he cut off. And it's a very disturbing scene. But like, to try to talk high ideals in cinema, it really puts the audience in the point of view of the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting.
I think it's super interesting. So this is one of my kind of like the things I wanted to talk about, which was like, this movie is like, it's very voyeuristic in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There are a lot of boobs in this movie. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of like, I don't know. It just feels like questionable, some of the things. Yeah.
Well, let's get into that because like earlier in the movie, we see Lenny reviewing a clip and we see it's a POV shot of a woman who's naked kissing. But then, you know, the person looks down and she has boobs.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a woman kiss another woman from the point of view of one of the women. Mm-hmm. So it's obvious that this technology is being used for sex, basically.
Yeah.
Which brings up a kind of interesting point. How fast new technology gets used for porn. Which is true.
Yeah.
Because when VHS cassettes were invented, who was the first adapters of that? The porn industry. Because it allowed people to watch porn in the safety of their own homes. Because before they would only be able to do it at a movie theater. Which is very awkward.
Which sounds insane.
But I mean, also at the time, if that was their only choice, that's what people are going to do.
Yeah.
But then VHS came out and then cable came out. And so, and because you bought cable and, you know, it wasn't broadcasted, that kind of cut into the VHS porn industry where you would just get Cinemax or HBO, and then late at night, you know, that's when they would show the naughty stuff. And then if you had a VHS, if you had a VCR, you could record it. And that way you'd be relatively safe. And then the internet came out in the mid 90s. And of course, porn adapted to it first. And, you know,
I was watching Seinfeld the other day and they were talking about, yeah, here, buy a computer. You can watch porn. I was like, holy cow, this is what, like 19 something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How would you like download a JPEG for like an hour or something?
That happened. Trust me, that happened. You know, and on the phone line, and then, you know, your grandmother would call, and then it would interrupt the phone line, and then it'd start all over from the beginning. And then she'd get mad and, you know, yell at your mom, hey, you know, why is he on the phone all the time? Why can't I get a hold of him?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. So new technology.
Yeah. New technology. You know, if it can be used for sex, it will be used for sex.
And it is in this movie.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing he deals in.
Mm-hmm.
He also deals in sort of like the adventure of, oh, this is great too. There's a line. Oh, man.
One man's mundane life is another man's technicolor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, it's insane because it's like gentrifying experience in a way.
Yeah.
It's like Lenny deals to like the most wealthy elites, and he deals. It's like, you know, the Pulp song, I want to live with
common people. I want to do what common people do.
Or the William Shatner song. I'm sorry. But it's like the fetishizing of poverty, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, desperation.
Or not even poverty, just excitement. Because the first thing we see was them trying to rob that place. And, you know, a high earning executive, you know, he has no need to like put his life on the line and hold up a restaurant, but he wants excitement, you know.
Yeah.
And that leads to another conversation because like when this happens, Lenny meets with a very well dressed, very straight laced guy in a seedy Chinese restaurant.
Oh, that was a great scene.
Where that guy does not belong, but Lenny totally does.
Yes.
And Lenny's kind of, you know, trying to sell him on you know, being one of his customers. And let me see.
He's basically like, I am your shrink.
Yeah. I'm your priest. And then
I'm the Santa Claus of subconscious.
Yeah. The connection to souls about stuff you can't have.
The switchboard of souls.
Oh, I must have not put it down, but he was like, do you want to have a girl? Do you want to be with a girl? Do you want to be with two girls? Do you want to be a guy? Do you want to be a girl? and so he's like showing him all these possibilities of all of these options that he could experience through this technology.
And this guy is getting hooked for sure. He's just like by the possibilities. And so he's like, all right, but how much is it? And Lenny's like, let's talk about numbers after I give you a taste.
Yeah, but what he does is he says, I'll give you the deck for free out of my own cost, but you'll have to buy clips for me. So he's basically, Lenny is basically, you know, doing a live subscription service. Yeah.
But the guy puts it on. Lenny puts a tape in.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. We never see it, but his reaction is.
But he says what it is.
Oh, what is it? Oh yeah, an 18-year-old girl showering.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting. This guy wants to be a girl. I mean, that's like I just think it's interesting that they chose that type of character and not some other.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's like this movie is very cool in the fact that it doesn't. It's not like these types of people are terrible or these types of people are bad. And
No. It doesn't make a judgment on them. It's just like, this is the world now, you know, and this is something that the world has to deal with. And they're dealing with it by trying to make it illegal, but obviously it doesn't work. So it's also a commentary on like the war on drugs.
I mean, definitely there's a Jericho 1 says like, we take the drugs and the guns that came off your shelves, basically. Like, you know,
Well, I think he means real drugs, not equating squid to drugs.
No, definitely not. But like, I mean, this is what this movie is about. It directly says that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just agreeing with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, this movie, it also reminds me of Inception in a lot of ways, like especially in that regard.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about that. That's interesting.
Because in Inception, you see that den where it's just rows of people.
Oh, the old men, yeah. Well, just rows of people, sorry.
Just rows of people like, asleep and all that. So like there's this underground economy and like shadow world dealing with just
sort of
the sleep technology in Inception.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here in this movie.
Yeah.
And it deals with a lot of the same things, having what you can't have. Now, in Inception, that's more about, fantasy and controlling everything. Whereas this movie is more about experiencing things through the eyes of somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
and sort of what is socially downtrodden and unacceptable.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that is what this movie takes place. The entire movie is in the underworld of the city. I mean, the whole city is an underworld, basically.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's get back into I just think, again, we're not done talking about the voyeurism because it's very strange.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to the cinematography of the movie because it feels like it's mostly handheld. It's mostly handheld shots. And like a lot of shots are eye level and like over the shoulder. It switches over the shoulder a lot. So the cinematography style is very POV in a way too, you know? That's what I noticed.
Yeah. It's just still strange because I don't know. It was just a strange feeling like watching the assault happen.
Oh yeah, that part. Yeah.
Watching Nero and Faith. Nero's rewatching the tapes that he has of himself while he's with Faith in their relationship. It's very strange. It just feels weird watching that. I don't know if they could have done it better in a different way.
Well, with Nero, it's very intimate. With Nero, it's a very intimate moment, and it's a moment to show that he doesn't want to let go of Faith, and that he would rather live in the past and just relive those moments than move on. It shows like how stuck he is on Faith, which becomes a major plot point.
Oh, for sure.
Because like most of what he does throughout the movie is just to try to protect Faith.
I'm just trying to figure out if it's exploitative or not, because I'm not sure. Like it feels like I'm on the fence about that,
right?
Because I don't know. It just was weird. That was one of the things I was like, I don't know if I can. I wouldn't rewatch this movie a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might show it to like a few people who I know like movies, but
I would skip through the rough parts.
It's genuinely uncomfortable, and even the parts where it is with like Nero rewatching it was uncomfortable for me. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
well, I mean, that's the other thing though, is because one of the reasons why I like first person point of view movies and I like found footage movies and I like Hardcore Harry is because of the immersive style of it. It feels like you really are the person and it feels more reality to me. And that's why I enjoy those movies. But what this movie does is it like shows the dark side of that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about it too. He's like, so Nero is talking with Mace and he's kind of defending his line of work, which is, people need this. People, it's part of living. It's part of being human is sort of dancing with the devil and living on the edge a little bit and, seeing the dark side a little bit. Later on, whenever he has to watch the assault happen, Mace is like, oh, how's the dark side feeling now kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how far is too far? And I mean, obviously that's like beyond the pale, but it's interesting. It's like, I don't know.
Well, that brings us to the villain who is like the killer who's doing all this stuff, who's killing these people and then recording it and leaving the tapes behind for Lenny to watch.
Lenny Nero, sorry. I keep forgetting his first name. Go ahead.
It's okay. That brings us to the killer who's leaving these tapes, these snuff tapes for Lenny to watch. And it's that classic writing where the villain of the piece should be a dark mirror to the hero. And that's what this killer is. He's Lenny's dark mirror. Lenny is a hustler. The reason why the killer is going after Lenny is because Lenny is like, he's the man in LA. And whenever illegal squid stuff comes up, eventually it's going to show up on his doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mason says that. She says that outright. And that's the reason why he gets involved in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, that's one of the reasons why the killer goes after him. But the thing is like, yeah, the killer is a lot like Lenny, where he's recording these things, but he's showing the dark side of it. The dark side of what can happen when you go too far with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, this idea of the villain being a dark mirror to the hero, it's a pretty classic piece of writing. You know, it's done mostly in like Marvel movies, because in Captain America, you have the Red Skull, where the Red Skull, he was transformed by the same formula that Captain America was. All that's different was who they were inside.
Yeah.
The formula takes who you are and magnifies it.
Yeah, it's Batman and the Joker and everything.
And then there's Ant-Man. His dark mirror was Yellow Jacket, who had basically the same technology that Ant-Man had, but it was just weaponized more. But Yellow Jacket was more insane, and Ant-Man was, more compassionate and so forth. So I just really wanted to bring up that idea of the dark mirror as the villain to the protagonist of the story, because this movie it really does that.
Yeah, and I didn't think about it in that way as much, but it absolutely does. Yeah,
I mean, especially, well, let's reveal who the killer is.
Yes,
the killer is Max, who he was partners with Lenny on the police force, and so let's talk about how they mirror each other. They were both cops. They're both former cops. They both kind of hustle now, where Lenny hustles the squid technology. Max basically is like a bodyguard for hire.
He's a PI, yeah. Well, he's a bodyguard for hire. He's sort of a unsavory PI.
Yeah, a fixer, probably. Yeah. And he also deals in squid technology because apparently he got shot in the head with a .22, and that caused some minor brain damage. And so now he has this long hair.
I didn't know that's why. Where did you hear that in the movie that he got shot in the back of the head?
Oh, at the very beginning, he was like, "I got a .22 in the brain pan." When he and Lenny are at the bar, right after Max comes up to him in the Chinese restaurant and interrupts his deal.
His sale, yeah.
They go to the bar and he's like, "Yeah, man, I got shot in the .22. I got shot in the brain pan with the .22, and then I got a pension from the LAPD, and that was it for me."
Wow.
Yeah, and that's why
in the very end.
That's why in those clips it looks blue. It's because he was colorblind, and that showed up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Oh, right. The killer is Max.
Yeah. The killer is Max, and they're a dark mirror. They were both cops. They're both on the outs with the police. And they're both in love with Faith.
Yes. And that's how I knew. I knew pretty much right away that Max was going to be the killer.
Really?
Yes, because it's such a noir movie. And that's a classic noir move is, it's your best friend all along. It's a double cross. It has to be.
Are you surprised that they didn't say, don't trust anybody?
He literally says, you're just not being paranoid enough.
That's true.
Which is like the classic, I'm the killer.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, it was well hidden because, I knew it was him all along.
Well, yeah.
But there was some subversions. There was some other people who it could be.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also really great because, it's Max who's the one who gets Lenny to work it like a case, once they find the tape that how Iris was assaulted and killed. And then, they kind of work it like they were back on the police station, back on the police force. And then, it's up to them to solve it themselves, because if they take the tape to the police, number one, the police might hide it because it shows the police executing Jericho Run, and that would lead to a riot. Number two, they'd probably think that Lenny was responsible somehow and would arrest him and imprison him.
Or go after all of Lenny's clients.
Yeah. And if Lenny did bring it to the police, Lenny's clients would never trust him again, and he couldn't do what he does anymore. And it's really interesting because Mason, she's around for all this, and she's like, well, maybe we should, let people riot.
Yeah.
Let's show what happens, and maybe the people should riot, and then maybe we'll get some change.
This movie has more balls than Black Panther, bro. Oh my gosh. And okay, so I don't know Angela Bassett's filmography that well, but I was watching the new Black Panther, the second one.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like my like realizing who she is as an actor. And I don't know, it was just funny because like, yeah, this movie is like, yes, we should riot. Let's overthrow everything.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what Black Panther wanted to be, but it wasn't allowed to be.
Well, I mean, that's a flash forward to the BLM movement nowadays. You know what I mean? Like it's the obvious evolution of that. You know, like what she says back in 1995, it happened. You know, in the 2010s. But like. I love it because this movie doesn't pull those punches. No, it does not. And whereas like today, you know, like with Black Panther, they had to pull the punches for some reason. I mean, money because Disney, and the government probably, And I mean, it was crazy because this movie was a Fox movie. This movie is a 20th Century Fox movie. Well, 1995.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Looking back now, it's insane that this is a Fox movie. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, if back then, what she's saying, it sounds very radical. But, like after the Black Lives Movement, it's like, yeah, man, fucking tear everything down. Yeah. Systemic problems are systemic. Let's do a new system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have not.
Okay, so what other themes do you want to talk about?
Let's see.
Are there any others?
The writing of this movie. The writing, as far as the dialogue, is okay. Well, the writing is just A+ through and through. Everything is well done. It all ties back in. Structurally, it's amazing.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the foil of Max, but also the poeticism of the lines. It's a little over the top sometimes. Yeah. But it's lovely. Like all those, like the I'm your shrink, I'm the Santa Claus of the subconscious. There's a lot of like those like super over the top lines, but it's
they fit
lovely.
His character. They fit his character.
And also it's a noir movie. And if you watch like old noir movies, it's like that is the way they talk sometimes. And that it's been parodied so much, but like that is how it is. It's just, I love your eyes, Lenny. I love the way they see. But I mean, that's like Faye said that to Lenny. But I just love that. But it is over the top sometimes. It's like I kind of roll my eyes sometimes, but also I love that it's there, and I don't want to change that at all. I would never change it, but I love that.
Well, I mean, I love the names. I love the names of these characters. I mean, Lenny, Nero, Philo, Gant, Jericho 1, and his partner, his musical partner, Replay. And then you got Mason, the bodyguard, Faith. He's lost Faith. Yes, in the end, Max says you've lost faith, to coin a new term. Okay, so the best name in the movie, is Tex. Okay, and Tex is the, I believe he's the guy with no legs. Okay. Who works at the club, and the killer dropped off that envelope to Tex. And then, Tex gave it to Lenny. Because
Tex is... Sorry, can I...
Yeah, he's wheelchair bound.
Well, yeah, but he's also an editor.
Oh, is that who he is?
I think he's like an editor of the Squids.
Well, Tick, there's Tex and there's Tick. Because Tick is the copier. He's the one... Yeah, and then there's Tex.
I think Tex is the editor because he's replaying all these noir movies also on the screens, and he's like... chopping them up, and I think he's looking at I think he might even be looking at a squid on one of the screens. Okay, but I think he has something to do with the squids more than just the client. Okay, and what's really cool about it is that's when we get Lenny's save the cat moment. Because because Tex has no legs, below the knee, so he's wheelchair bound, and so Lenny's like, "Here, I got something for you," and so he gives him a tape, and then Tex plays the tape. And then it's a POV of a man looking down at his own feet as he runs down the beach. And, that's his save the cat moment. That's a moment where he shows, he has humanity, that he's not such a bad guy. And it really is a very sweet moment, for sure. But why that's great is because the guy's name, his full name is Tex Arcana. So it's like, not only do you get like Tex Arcana, but it's like ARCANA, like Arcana, from like, magic and stuff. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. That's awesome.
So Just the names are great.
Yeah, the names are fantastic. And I think another interesting part about this is the religious imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Faith, and whenever Lenny and Faith they're flashbacking to like the POV squid stuff, there's like a cross on the wall. There's a lot of like religious wording. He's like, what does Max say to him before he dies? Is like, he got the gun to his face and he's like, Jesus, and he's like, that's the number 2 thing that people say before they die. The number 1 is shit. And I don't know, it's just very interesting. Sort of and also I haven't even started to talk. There's so much to talk about this big movie.
I know.
The soundtrack. Is like my favorite period of music. It has Skunk Anansi, who is, I believe she's Jamaican.
Okay.
But all of her music, especially her first or biggest albums, are about basically they're the most political music you can get. It's like, the big song in this for them is they're selling Jesus again, which is about like they're selling Jesus again. They're selling love to you to get your money, your votes, and I forget what else. But like that is like what this movie is about too. And I don't know. I just love that so much. And also they have PJ Harvey song that what's her face? Juliette Lewis does a cover of a PJ Harvey song, which is like it's a very feminist soundtrack and radical soundtrack. I love it so much. I don't know, but that's like another thing is like these sort of mind controlling of people and the bargaining with religion and patriotism, and it's just very interesting. I don't know. There's a lot of imagery and symbolism in this movie that are awesome. We have, the New Year's Eve fireworks. We have a transition from the gunshots to fireworks, and it's just like, and I don't know, it's just awesome. I love that he's eating one of the popsicles. That's the red, white, and blue popsicle.
Yeah.
as who is it? The dictator gets a Nobel Peace Prize, right?
So there's a news report, and it's Kelly Hu. I'm pretty sure it's Kelly Hu. Kelly Hu plays a news anchor on Fox News in LA, and so she's like, well, first she's like, every big party needs insurance, and the LA and the city's insurance is going to be the Los Angeles PD, and how they're going to ensure the safety through the New Year's party and all that's going on. And then she's like, astrologers come up with amazing predictions for the next century. And one is that Muammar Gaddafi wins the Nobel Peace Prize. Which cracked me up.
Freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
But the fact that she says that the LAPD is the insurance company is really interesting. Like, what are they insuring?
Well, peace. Well, I mean, quote unquote peace,
Yeah.
But they're going to do it by, we see clips of it like all throughout the movie of, police in riot gear, running people down on the streets and, smacking them with a nightstick and, hauling them away. Like the streets are filled with tanks, surrounded by policemen. It looks straight out of like what happened during BLM, although, I don't know if they used tanks or not during, the BLM protests.
It looks straight out of it. It's insane. We also have, I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff with that. There's Max even tries to plant an idea of, an elite hit force of cops who are trying to basically cover up their own brutality.
Yeah. That's an allusion to the Rampart scandal where, let me see. Because like there was a Rampart division that kind of focused on street crime and gang crime. And like the people involved in that squad, they were like they had way more complaints against them than any other like part of the LAPD. And also like they were covering up for people and like they were framing people too, apparently. And so like that's what that's an allusion to. And so because that actually happened, and so like it's very believable that he could get away with that story, but ultimately it's red herring.
Yeah.
So.
There's so much interesting stuff in here. And I was like, what is all this? Because like I was like, watching this, I was like, did a black woman write this? Or like, did a black person at least write this? But no. But I just think it's interesting because someone who was aware of these, you know, problems and societal problems wrote this. And I was like, this is really interesting. But I think it must have been the influence of Jay Cox, potentially. I could be wrong, but...
Well, I listened to this podcaster, Dan Carlin, and he probably his biggest podcast is Hardcore History, but he also does a political commentary podcast called Common Sense. And he has talked about how he was involved in... He was basically a journalist in LA during the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And so like he worked for, I know he worked for a news outlet. I'm not sure if it was TV or newspaper or what, but he definitely worked for it. And he was he talked about, you know, what happened during the time of the LA riots. And it was like, yeah, you know, if you were involved, involved in news at the time, you could feel it in the air. Because we would get these, because the news, the journalist outlets, the news outlets, they would get calls from people complaining about police brutality. And then you'd be like, well, you know, do you have any witnesses? Do you have any evidence? And they said, no. And so, well, we can't go with the story because we don't have anything to back it up with. And so he said that he got calls after calls after calls like this. And you could just feel the people getting frustrated because they had nowhere to go with it. And there was nothing they could do with it. And when the Rodney King verdict happened, and those police officers were found, you know, not guilty. And that's when the rioting happened. And he also mentioned what it was like the night of the riots, because like he was like in some show, like some long show. And then like when he came out, he said it was very eerie because the streets were totally empty and he had no idea why.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. And you know, eventually he got home and, you know, because he didn't have a cell phone, and they got a hold of him and he was like, yeah, you got to come in, you know, there's rioting, you know. So wow. Yeah. But like all those stories among the community, especially the black community, this was going on, but there was no way to put it out there, you know, in the mass media. But, you know, smartphones changed all that. And then that's what led to the, you know, BLM movement.
Just crazy. This movie's awesome.
Yeah.
This movie's awesome. I just wanted to, I think it's interesting that the writers were James Cameron and Jay Cox, it's just very interesting. Yeah. James Cameron was credited for the story.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm sure he came up with like all the sci-fi elements and, you know, stuff like that for sure.
Yeah. And the basics, you know, neo-noir plot points and stuff like that. But I just wanted to say that Jay Cox is the writer was a writer for, you know, Gangs of New York, Silence, Age of Innocence, The Last Temptation of Christ. Just a lot of like the Martin Scorsese movies also. Yeah,
and prestige movies as well.
Yes. Age of Innocence, I think, was his biggest one. And I think he was writing for a long time. Oh, no, that's Gangs of New York. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't know. One of those two he was writing for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Just find it interesting. But I thought it was cool. I didn't think, as far as like female characters who are well-rounded, I mean, Mace is by far the most well-rounded. But there are some, I mean, Iris felt a little flat and just like...
Well, yeah, she's only there to push the plot along.
Yeah.
But I mean, also this movie is 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So,
but this movie's insane. So good. So
well, we haven't talked about William Fichtner and Vincent D'Onofrio as the two cops who are trying to gun everybody down.
They're insane too. Their little love affair.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah, they go around, you know, trying to gun everybody down.
Protect each other.
Yeah. I think the best scene with them is when they chase after. So Lenny and Mason go to the impoundment lot to get the tape that Iris left from Lenny's car, and Vincent D'Onofrio and William Fichtner as the two cops who executed Jericho 1, they track them down there and they confront them. That leads to a chase. And so
that's awesome.
Mason and Lenny get in their car, and then the cops get in their car, and there's a car chase.
It's Mason's souped up car too.
Yeah. And then Mason drives down that pier, barely stops, but the car's been damaged, so she can't get out. So what the cops do is Vincent D'Onofrio, he grabs a jug of gasoline, pours it all over the car, and sets it on fucking fire with them inside. Yes, so cool. And I'm like, well, we can't just sit here. The gas tank's going to blow with us inside it. What are we going to do? And then she does, out of the frying pan and into the, sea, water, ocean. So, she drives off the pier, and Lydia's like, are you crazy? And she's like, well, at least we're not on fire anymore.
And then she freaking goes into the back seat, freaking pulls out the back seat and gets into the trunk and pulls out a gigantic stainless steel pump shotgun.
Yeah.
Blows the trunk out. It's like, hold your breath, and they swim up and they get out unscratched. Yeah. Onto the next mission. It's so freaking cool.
And so then the next time we see the two cops, they're at the New Year's Eve street party, and then they see Mason, and so they're trying to track her down through the crowd, and they go after her. They try to beat her, I think, but then she beats Vincent D'Onofrio, and then she grabs a taser and tases William Fichtner, and she
well, wait before that they are opening fire.
Oh yeah, they're shooting right into the crowd trying to get to her. They are desperate to stop her.
5 people get shot in the chest and back,
and they don't give a shit.
No, at all. So I just thought that was like a horrific scene to me too.
But I mean, totally believable nowadays. I mean, you hear stories of them. They shot a victim. They shot there was a teenage girl who was kidnapped. She tried to run towards the cops, and the cop shot her.
Freaking
so
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally believable. That was a horrific scene to me, though. That was just watching it was really rough to watch all those people just dying. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when it transitioned to the fireworks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But anyways,
so she takes them down. She handcuffs them
to the stage.
Well, they handcuff them together and then to the stage.
Yeah.
She holds a gun on them, and then the SWAT comes by, and they have their guns on her, and she's like, get down. She's like, wait, let me tell you what's going on. And so she puts the gun down, she gets down, and then they try to cuff her, and then they just beat on her with nightsticks while they free the police officers, the corrupt cops.
Mm-hmm. And then, so she's getting the crap beat out of her. Mm-hmm. With all these cops with nightsticks and SWAT gear and riot gear. And there's a little kid, or not a little kid, he's a teenager.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
With a freaking bandana. And he's like, stop beating her up. And he jumps on the back, and then the riots start.
Yeah.
They take them out. And this part was a little unbelievable. But
where the police commissioner comes in on her side.
Police commissioner comes in, is like, I saw the tapes. You guys are getting arrested for murder.
Yeah. And then what happens is they arrest.
Oh wait! Hold on a second. I gotta say, he shows up with the tape, and he's like, "You two are arrested for murder. Get this woman some medical attention." Then just walks away, leaves her on the ground, bleeding from her head. He's like, "Get this woman medical attention. I'll be right back."
Hey, he's not a professional medic.
I know, but he doesn't even help her up or look at her at all, practically. Anyways,
and so they arrest Vincent. They cuff Vincent D'Onofrio to William Fichtner, and then as they lead them away, William Fichtner grabs a gun out of one of the officers arresting him, and waves it around. He's like, threatening everybody, and then all the cops turn and put it down, and then he puts the barrel in his mouth, blows his brains, and his brains land all over Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, it's so dramatic. It's crazy,
but very, very symbolic. I mean,
what do you mean?
Well, I mean, he has his partner's blood on his face.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then literally, it's like This movie is a freaking 11 at the entire time. Then Vince, oh wait, no, who was the other guy? Vincent D'Onofrio, right?
Yeah, he's the one still alive. Yeah,
he's freaking dragging the other guy.
He grabs the gun,
who's like got a gaping hole in his head. He's just dragging him along by the handcuff, and he's like waving the gun around.
And the police are pointing their guns at him, saying, "Put it down, put it down." And Lenny goes, "Shoot him! Why don't you shoot him?"
and Vincent D'Onofrio shoots, and Lenny covers up Mace, gets shot in the back or whatever, and then Vincent D'Onofrio says the slur and calls Mace the slur, the slur basically, and then just gets lit up.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. It's so it's just so nice to see them get what they deserve in the end.
But I mean, like you said, gay.
Yeah, they were definitely lovers.
Overtones, very, very overtones of them being intimate.
I mean, there's always like overtones of that of cop partners.
Well, yeah.
It's just hilarious to me. I don't know, but you definitely almost feel like they are so desperate to protect each other.
Well, especially considering what the tape will do, because they don't want to get out. Mostly because it implicates them in this, but that's something. But also, it'll be they know that there's no getting out of it if this bomb falls.
Yeah,
if this bomb drops. So that's why they're so desperate to make sure that it doesn't, and that's why they just go on a fucking killing spree. And then Max uses that as cover for his own murders, because he does his own murders to protect Faith. Because after all this happened, Gant basically hired Max to kill Iris and Faith, but he fell in love with Faith. So what Max does is he kills Iris and then sets up Lenny to be framed for the death of Gant. Mm-hmm. And then Max essentially kills Gant. And so that's the plot of this movie, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Gant is the record producer.
Yeah.
Who was the record producer of Jericho 1.
Yeah, the reason why he wants Iris and Faith to be killed is because he hired Iris to follow Jericho 1 because he was getting paranoid. And so he wanted basically Iris to surveil Jericho 1 for him. Mm-hmm. And if that got out, all of his other acts would leave him.
Which I thought was the weakest sort of plot point. But, I didn't care at that point.
Yeah. I mean, you're so pulled into the plot and the world and the characters already. I mean, you're not going to argue with it.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I mean, everything's an excuse for everything else in this movie. But at least what James Cameron, as our screenwriter, is very good at is making sure those excuses are in there.
Yeah.
He does make sure that they are in there in his movies.
Oh, it's great. It's it's just stellar. Everything about this movie is freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. But there's also, we didn't even talk about Philo Gant or whatever, and how his character is just insane. It's lovely. There's a part where, Lenny shows up to try and win Faith back, and he's like, and she's smoking, kind of like blowing smoke. And Philo reaches out and he's like, he feels the air between the two. And he's like, what do you guys have left? I don't feel a thing. It's just he has these brilliant moments. The writing for him is magical.
Michael Wincott's a wonderful actor. I love him as an actor.
I didn't know him very much, but I loved him in Nope. And
yeah. Well, The Crow, and he's such a great villain in Along Came a Spider. Along Came a Spider, it's one of those airport books, airport thrillers.
Yeah.
Turned into a movie.
What was it, Tom Clancy, right? Or something?
No. I think it's James Patterson.
Oh, wow. Okay. The same thing.
No. Very different. Very different.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Absolutely. We'll get into that later.
I want to go into it.
No. We'll get into that later. Yeah, we can do a movie comparison of Hunt for Red October with Along Came a Spider if you want. But anyway. So yeah, Michael Wincott is wonderful. Okay, so let's start to wind down. What do you think of the ending?
So the ending was a little conceited. It was a little conceited. We get Mace and what's his freaking name? Lenny. Gosh dang. Mace and Lenny are about to be taken away to be questioned for 6 hours, and she's like, do you think we'll get arrested? And he's like, nah, we'll just be questioned for 6 hours.
Well, just before all this happens, it's now New Year's.
Yes.
It's after midnight. And then we see all these people kissing. One of them being this SWAT officer on top of a tank, all dressed up in heavy, a military uniform, wielding an assault rifle, being held by this, a woman, kissing. Very blatant.
This is also after freaking Lenny has risen from the dead.
Oh yeah.
He's been shot in the back and he just gets up and stabbed in the back.
Yeah. Well, I forgot about that because that was so funny because so he's fighting Max. He fights Max and then Max stabs him and then they fight each other to the balcony and then Lenny throws Max over the side. Max grabs his tie.
Yes, the tie.
And then, I'm going to bring you with me, Lenny. And so Lenny reaches back for the box cutter that Max stabbed him with.
Into his back.
Pulls it out and cuts off his own tie.
It's so good. It's so good.
And that's why the costuming in this movie is just so great. I mean, that says so much right there.
And also, like, the reason, he's like, good thing I was colorblind. That's the only way I could stand your ties.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Wait, one more thing before.
Okay.
Tom Sizemore, freaking amazing. Freaking amazing. He plays the same thing in everything, but it's amazing.
He was.
Wait. This movie. Okay, this movie and Natural Born Killers needs to be a double feature.
Okay.
Because Tom Sizemore and, Juliette Binoche, they play the same characters in both.
Okay.
I don't know. It's really interesting. But they're both, and I love Tom Sizemore's character in Bringing Out the Dead, which I'm going to make you watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tom Sizemore, he was also great in Black Hawk Down, so. Mm-hmm.
Apparently he was in Heat, too.
Yeah, he's great in Heat. Yeah, for sure.
Anyways.
Okay,
but the ending.
The very ending. Okay.
Yes. We have confetti everywhere.
Yeah.
Billions and billions of tons of confetti.
Because it's a not only a new century, it's a new millennium.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then, Y2K, that was very, very anticipated, like in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also this thing called Le Fin de Cécile.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a French term. Yeah, Fin de Cécile.
Let me see. I'm not going to do any better, but I got to try. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Fin de Cécile.
Yeah, something like that. And it means the end of the century. And what it refers to is that sense of the end of one age and the beginning of a new age that happens with every turn of one century to another.
Mm-hmm.
But, Y2K was something special because not only was it the turn of one century to another, it was the turn of one millennium to another. So it was highly anticipated. And, there was a lot of, just energy about it, at that time.
And people thought this was also potentially the end of the world.
Yeah. And that's where we get movies like, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny because it's like, okay, the year 2000, that's going to be the last year and there's going to be an Armageddon and, something bad's going to happen. And then it didn't happen. And then it was like, okay, no, it's not 2000, it's 2012.
There was a radio show in the beginning and there was a guy talking to this lady. She was like, God's going to come back. And he's like, oh, okay, so when's it supposed to happen? And she's like, exactly on the New Year day. And he's like,
yeah, at midnight. Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, is that midnight Los Angeles time? What time zone is God in?
Well, you know what movie that reminds me of? Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Or what is it? One of the Superman movies where it's the same time of day everywhere around the world where they're showing things getting destroyed and stuff. It was a big plot point kind of thing.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, we're going to have to watch Halloween 3 yet.
Anyways, the ending of this movie, confetti everywhere. Mm-hmm. People just got shot and died. We just beat the bad guys.
But now they're kissing because they made it to the new millennium.
Well, he runs down the cop car and he gets her out and they kiss.
Yeah, they kiss and then slow crane shot up from them to show the crowd and the confetti falling and then
up to the sky.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like with this movie, how can you end this movie? I mean, it's almost like you know, one of the things Mason says is like the difference between TV and real life is that like real life keeps on going. You know, she says something to that effect.
Was it Mason? I mean, was that Mason or Faith?
That was I
think it was.
I thought it was Mason.
Oh, okay, probably so.
And so it's like, well, you have this movie, you know, you have all these characters, you have this really interesting world. How can you end it? And so I think they end it the only way that they really could, especially being a Hollywood movie with, you know, the guy and the girl kissing.
It's fine. And there was some sort of like, there were feelings between them.
Oh, yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah. There's that part where Mason wants to go back to the hotel to rescue Faith, but Mason knows that it's a trap and she won't go with him. And so she, you know, yells at him and then stomps on his tapes of Faith and, you know, tries to stop her. And, you know, they have that moment. And he's like, you know, have you ever loved somebody who didn't love you back? And she's like, yeah, Lenny, you know, looking right at him, I know something about that. So it's apparent she's in love with him in the same way that he's in love with Faith. And so that's why throughout the whole movie, that explains a lot of why Mason puts up with Lenny's shit. It's because deep down, she's in love with him on a level. And then by the end of the movie, they get together. Yay!
Which didn't seem exactly needed, but, you know, it is.
Yeah. You know,
I thought it was good. It was good enough.
Yeah. It's for the people.
I mean, there was a revolution, you know?
Yeah. That's true.
Riots was happening.
Yeah.
People were
riots and celebration all in the same, you know, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
On the streets of LA. Yeah. So yeah, it ended. Okay, so you love this movie.
I love this movie. I don't know if I can watch it many times just because there's a lot of rough stuff in it. It's really emotionally draining to watch.
Yeah.
Especially with the assault scenes, for sure.
So here's the funny thing. This movie was a box office bomb, and it nearly derailed Catherine Bigelow's career, apparently.
Well, because it's too woke, man.
Well, it was because, apparently it was because of like the violence and, you know, because of that social activism stuff that was in there. And you know, also the assault scenes too, because, you know, it was, I guess critics were divisive about that.
And it is a divisive thing. I'm on the fence about it, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's so difficult to watch. Especially because, you know, like the reason why I like this movie is because on a lot of levels, it's like a genre movie. It is very much a genre movie. And it does a lot of interesting things that no other movie really has. Because like I said, you know, it's pre-cyberpunk and, you know, it's neo-noir all at the same time. And then it's got that social activism aspect to it. But because of the graphic depictions, it is very difficult to watch.
Yeah.
So
I'm still not sure if they, you know, did the best, but I think, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, like, I don't know. Like, I remember reading reviews of, like, Monster, the movie Monster, which I think that was, in the 90s as well. Came out in the 90s.
I think late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, but again, like, that movie had assault scenes in it, but they were completely... It just didn't feel like this movie... The assault scenes were not devoid of sexuality. And I don't think... I don't know, you know, because it was weird because like the best assault scenes I think are devoid of sexuality. I think because it's not, you know, it's not really about sexuality. It's about the violence and the heinousness of it and the asserting power over another human being. But it didn't feel completely non-sexual, which I think was weird. Yeah, because this is, you know, like I said, it's essential. It's not an art movie. It's not a prestige movie. It's essentially a genre movie, and it's a genre mashup of pre-cyberpunk and neo-noir. So because of the genre of movie it is, the assault scenes really feel exploitative for sure. Yeah. Which was rough.
Yeah, very rough.
But overall, again, this movie has a lot of good things to say about people who are oppressed and who are downtrodden and whose voices aren't heard and marginalized. Yeah. And it just, there are a lot of good things in this movie. But I feel like that does detract a little bit in some ways for sure. Anyway, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to go over Catherine Bigelow's career real quick because,
yeah.
The funniest thing is like she was married to James Cameron.
Oh,
for
really?
2 years.
What 2 years? Was it during this?
It was after this. 1989 to 1991, apparently. Like they married in 1989 and got divorced in 91.
So that was before this.
Well, they may have developed it while they were married, but then divorced. But yeah, and then went into production afterward. But okay, so let's take a quick look at some of the movies that Catherine Bigelow has directed. Near Dark. Do you know that? Do you know that one?
No.
That's a great movie. It's a great vampire movie. It mixes the modern West with vampires. It's incredible. And it's got a lot of the cast from Aliens.
Yeah, I saw this and added it to my watch list. I was like, this looks really cool.
Okay, yeah. And then Point Break, which gave us, the Fast and the Furious. And then she did this movie, and it nearly derailed her career because the next one she did was K-19 The Widowmaker, which I saw in the theaters. And from what I remember my experience, I wasn't that impressed by it. But I guess, it was just to prove that she could be a director again and stay a director. But after that, she did The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, which was an Academy Award winner, and then Detroit. So
it looks like she also did. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and her early career was The Loveless, right? With it looks like really early Willem Dafoe.
Oh.
And Blue Steel with 90s Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Interesting. Quite the varied career. And she won an Oscar for Hurt Locker, right?
I'm not sure.
Anyways, she did. I was watching this movie as like, the people who make movies are insane. Like, I want to make movies really badly, and it's a goal of mine to make a movie.
Yeah, she did win Best Director for Hurt Locker, and Hurt Locker also won Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay, among others. So, yeah. So it's interesting because we love this movie, but it was so divisive, apparently, at the time. It was a bomb at the time. Yeah. I think it was way too ahead of its time.
Yeah, that's. I agree. Yeah.
And the thing is like this movie, it's a tough movie to find because I had to get it on DVD.
Oh.
Apparently, there wasn't a Blu-ray release of it, and it's not available for streaming.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, so this is kind of a tough movie to get a hold of.
Huh.
Yeah. And I only know about this movie because, I've read TV tropes so much, but also I watched this on HBO, and I remember there was an HBO used to do this thing called HBO First Look, where we do behind the scenes of upcoming movies. So I saw that, and then I saw this on HBO when it came out.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It hasn't been out anywhere since. So
that's crazy. I feel like people should watch it again. I don't know. I mean, there's that stuff that makes it really tough.
Yeah.
Especially it's tough to be excited about this movie because of that stuff. But I mean, yeah. But it is. I think it's an excellent movie.
Okay, great.
Through and through. And I think they handle a lot of stuff. They handle a lot of stuff really well, and some stuff not so well.
Yeah.
But I mean,
nothing but nothing terrible. Except maybe the ending. But you gotta.
Yeah, I mean, no. Like as far as the quality of the movie, no, nothing terrible at all. No.
Okay.
Yeah. It had freaking Skunk and Nancy. I love it. It was so cool. Oh man, and the PJ Harvey song. I was loving it.
Okay,
Anyways.
great. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I guess that's the end of this episode. And I should wish you guys a happy New Year. That's why we chose this movie. It was our New Year's movie, or at least my New Year's movie.
Yes. I think I have a pick for next time.
Well, I probably should have opened with that, but oh well.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That was Strange Days, and this has been Your Movie, My Movie.
I'm Steve.
I'm Dan.
So goodbye, y'all. Take care.
Guys. Bye-bye.